money, anything, ayy. Ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the back, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Ayy, let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what we can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, you guys, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Corey Buchan, thank you for letting me know that the audio was not working. I had to go through this complex IT thing called restarting my computer, and ironically, everything worked again. So yeah, you guys, when in doubt, just restart your computer. But no, I truly appreciate the heads up on that. But we'll jump in. We're going to go obviously a little bit longer than we normally would on this, because I'm still going to show up and do my show. And it's never perfect, you guys. Like, at the end of the day, it's so fitting for just like where I was kind of going to go with the angle of the show today. And a lot of it, like, honestly, you guys, my content strategy 99.9% of the time is like, when I see something on social media, I'm like, I'm going to go in and talk about that today. And a lot of it is, it was, obviously it's the halfway point of the year for a lot of people. And it was, what have you done so far? And all of this other stuff. And, I used to think about that a lot, right? Like, I used to think, hey, I'll start Monday, or, this is, just everything other. I would focus on everything other than like, what should I be doing today? And since I've shifted my entire strategy to daily actions, and then like literally just focusing on my day, it's helped me quell a lot of, the anxieties of like where I'm not and everything else. But I really just highly advise everybody to focus on, like, if you're not where you want to be, whether it's in your business, health, whatever, just focus on like, what are your actions that you can do today, because it's never going to be perfect. All right. And, with what's going on in the world and the freight market and everything else, it's like, there's so many signs out there that just always go back to the fact that, like, it's never going to be perfect. It's as simple as this. It's simple. It's not easy. All right. And that's the big thing. It's a simple strategy. It's just not easy to follow. Choose a couple of things and then just focus on that. Andy Frisella has an entire podcast out there on the Real AF podcast about the power list and everything else, and just choosing a couple of key things and then just focusing on that. And I feel like, if you woke up and it was the 4th of July weekend and you're like, holy shit, you're out there drinking some beers and, grilling, and then you inevitably woke up yesterday morning and you're like, damn, I'm nowhere near where I thought I was going to be at this point in the year. It's okay, right? But you have to make the effort to like start today. All right. Because it's not going to be perfect. Nobody's going to like put their arm around your shoulder and be like, all right, it's time, like, let's go out and do it. You just got to start, and you got to unapologetically go after what you want. And, like I was saying, I spent so many of those Mondays, so many of those weekends thinking like, all right, this next one's going to be the one. And, another very powerful thing is I stopped focusing on where I wasn't. And I just, and like what I wanted to achieve. And this was like monumental for me in business, because I talk about this a lot, right? Like, I am building the largest transportation company in North American history. But if I look at where I'm at today compared to like where I'm going to be in 30 or 40 years, it's like, holy shit, it's daunting, right? And there's a lot of, is it even worth it? A lot of those thoughts come into my head with it. But I break everything down into small, digestible bites, right? Like, what can I do today? Today, from like a business development perspective, I'm not shifting my sales strategy or anything like that, but I'm realigning, because like, we've identified some gaps in our business in the sense of like, we need more consistency, right? Like, I love all of our customers. I love all the freight that we get, but there's freight out there where it's like, hey, I want 5 loads a day from Dallas to Chicago, hypothetical example here, right? And everybody's probably listening to this and they're like, oh, hey, I want that too. But like, I am going to make a effort to develop customers that fit inside of that, right? So it's like when we come in, we know we got like 5 loads a day that we're going to be moving no matter what. And for me as a business owner, I'm trying to minimize the ebbs and the flows. I'm trying to create that solid baseline that we have in guaranteed business coming in. And then, because again, like obviously we want to hire people, we want to grow and scale. And when you're bootstrapping a business, like I am, I need money to do that, right? And how do I get money? I sell. And then that comes from revenue and the profits that we make from our customers. And then we go and redeploy that capital out there to build that business up. So hold on, you guys. I got a quote coming in here from a customer. Speaking of building a business up. But that's the whole thing, right? So it's like I'm taking this and we spent these last couple of weeks kind of talking like, all right, what has worked the most from us? Because obviously anybody out there who's developed a book of business over these last couple of years, it's not easy, right? It's never been easy. But from my perspective, right now, it's one of those situations where you got to go like, hey, what's working, and then you got to double and triple down on that. And from my perspective, that was one of those things where we kind of realigned where that was, and that's what we're jumping all over. And we are going to come in and we're going to take care of it. And that's going to be our strategy. So for my strategy for the next 90 days, or for maybe that next 6 months is identify customers who have more consistent lanes that are out there, and really go after that business, right? Because we need to identify our baseline and really get in there to increase our revenues out there and grow, right? Grow and scale. When you're bootstrapping a business, so it's all on you, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm not afraid to jump in and make that stuff happen. So, all right, give me 2 seconds, you guys. I gotta quote this customer. All right, there we go. That is how we do it. That's how we do it, you guys. That's the reality of building a business. All right. Sorry, I had to double dip there, but that's why you guys actually listen to this show all the time because A, yes, I am a pretty face, but B, I am out here actually doing the work. All right. I'm actually building a customer base and building a company. So anyways, you guys, back into it here. So let's break down. I'm sorry, you guys. I am trying. I'm trying to do about 3 things at once, and I'm getting pulled in a different direction there. But we're back in. We are making it happen here, you guys. But let's break down some articles, right? Because there's been some interesting stuff that is been happening out there. And, I did read a couple of good articles that came out late last week, you guys. And again, all the links to the articles are going to be up in the show notes, as well as the audio only replay and everything. So check that out, you guys. I want you to really read these articles yourself and do a lot of your own research on it. Because again, this is just my opinion. It's just the opinion of somebody who's worked in trucking their entire life. And I'm just out here trying to do it. And this is like a lot of the information that I break down, I'm taking it and I'm deploying a lot of that strategy inside of my own company. But this one was from ttnews.com. Trucking is still squeezed by high costs and low rates. ATRI finds that the average cost of operating slips 0.4% out there. And again, obviously, if you're a broker, I understand it's not your business with what it costs to run a truck. I would agree with that statement, but you need to understand what it costs to actually operate equipment out there. If you're going to go out there and quote customers on anything, you need to know what is going on. You need to know how your counterparts go out there and quote their business, so you have a better understanding of what it costs to operate a truck. So the average cost of operating a truck dipped slightly last year, but marginal costs jumped when the effects of lower costs were excluded out there. The group's latest analyst for operational trucking survey found that the average cost for operating a truck last year slipped 0.4% versus a year ago levels to $2.26 a mile. That said, when lower fuel costs are excluded, marginal increased expenses went to $1.77 a mile, a record for non-fuel operating costs. All right. So take that into consideration, you guys. It does go on to say that the trucking industry is facing the most challenging freight market in years, with loads down and costs increasing. Groendyke Transport CEO Greg Hodgins said, ATRI's operational cost data and the customized benchmarking report that compares us to similar fleets are more critical than ever as we are navigating rising costs and decreasing margins. The study found that cost trends varied by line item last year. For instance, fuel, repair, and maintenance expenses declined out there, but driver wages rose 2.4%, a 0.5% below inflation. ATRA pointed out that driver wages were the primary contributor to cost increases for trucking in the 3 years following the pandemic. Other cost drivers were truck and trailer payments, which rose 8.3% to a record high 39 cents a mile, while driver benefits rose 4.8% to nearly 20 cents per mile, and then non-driver staff was cut 6.8%. The report noted that the carrier profitability suffered across all industry sectors out there. And then while parts of the economy, it does go on to say that while parts of the U.S. economy maintained positive growth rates, those sectors lacked the catalyst necessary to reverse multi-year trucking downturn out there. Unfortunately, in trucking and specifically dry van, flatbed, and refrigerated sectors, nationwide contract and spot rates continued to slide year over year. So again, like what does a lot of this mean? And that is a lot of, from my seat right now, it's you know, from my seat, it's one of those situations where there's so many different data points that are coming at you. And again, like I like this. I like this line item breakdown that they talk about. And again, there's a link inside of here, you guys, where you can go and click on the ATRI's report. And, you know, from my seat right now, you should have a very good understanding about what you're up against inside of this industry. And when you're sitting here and you're seeing that load counts are down, everything's down, costs are up, and, you know, when we're going out there and we're attacking this, you know, again, you got to ask yourself, all right, what can you do inside of your business right now to lower your costs, right? Like I look at my P&L like a hawk. All right. Every single month when my bookkeeper sends me my P&L statement, I go through there and I see, what can I cut? All right. What am I paying for? I ask my team, hey, are we, and I will go through there line by line, and I will like, hey, are we using this service still? Or are we using this service still? Because to me, it's a lot of little items that add up over time that you don't necessarily pay attention to. That's why it's like you look at, you know, like the Netflixes of the world and other things, and you're like, oh, it's just $10 a month. It's just $20 a month. But, you know, if you look it up, man, a couple $100 a year, I mean, that's the difference between profitability and not, right? Like people are operating off of razor thin margins, and you need to look at how is this going to affect my business? So like when you're going up there and you're signing up for anything, or you're paying for services, or if you're an owner operator and you're paying for dispatching, you're paying for factoring, you're paying for all of this stuff. I mean, before you know it, you're giving away 20, 30% of your money right there, right? And there's times where you have to ask yourself outside of factoring, because I feel like factoring is essential for a lot of small businesses that are out there. But if you're paying for services, you got to start asking yourself, is this something that you have to take on to yourself, or is this something that you can automate? And and go out there and possibly pay for some software that's going to be more cost effective. Those are very real conversations that you need to have. And, for a lot of my driver friends out there that listen to this show, I want you guys to be aware more freight doesn't make the load board than you could even ever comprehend, right? I was talking to a buddy of mine this morning. He said 80% of their freight never sees a load board. So think about that. 80%. Inside of my business currently, we're at like 60, I would say 60% on the low end, 70% on the high end, and it airs towards 70% when the lanes align with the lanes that our core carriers run, right? So if every load we get, for example, I reach out to our core carriers first. I reach out to them to see if they have capacity in the area and if it aligns out there. I don't go to a load board. I go to a load board on a secondary basis. All right. And if I operate that way, there are other brokers that operate that way as well, right? So again, when we're looking at this and we're seeing 226 a mile out there for the average industry average, yes, you guys, and again, the thing with averages is some people are above that, some people are below that. But, again, knowing your costs is always going to be the most pivotal thing in business. And one thing to keep in mind, the majority of small businesses, you guys are 30 days from going out of business every single month out there due to cash flow constraints out there. And that's why my friends and I over at Denim do that monthly Financial Friday to help drive some more financial and fiscal awareness out there so we can help everybody stay in business, you guys. But again, check that out. You guys read that article. And then most importantly, you guys crunch your numbers, see what you guys have out there and what can you do to increase the profitability out there. Because again, it's not as easy as just making your customer pay more money. All right. I wish it was that fucking easy where we could just go out there and be like, I need more money, Mr. or Mrs. Customer. And then be like, oh yeah, of course. Here's an endless stream of money for you to pay for the freight. That's not how it works, which is kind of alarming considering the amount of people out there who think that it's just that easy where you can just call up your customer and be like, hey, I need $5,000 extra dollars on this. And they just think that that's just the way it goes. It's not. I hate to break it to you guys. Anyways, next article that we are going to break down, you guys, fleetowner.com. And this is the big, beautiful bill passed. All right. It has passed. It has been signed. It is being rolled out. There's a lot of people who are against this. There are a lot of people who are for this. And I am agnostic because I don't trust anybody to make my life better out there. I'm going to figure out a way to win no matter what. But in regards to trucking, because again, you guys, that's what we talk about on this show. Both the ATA and OOIDA expressed delight in the Pro Trucker package because that is one positive of the big, beautiful bill is there's a section out there just for trucking. And then it goes on to safe and strong trucking industry is critical to the American growth and economy. Spear and the ATA also praised the passing of the bill, that they thanked the president for moving the comprehensive tax reform package across the finish line, obviously Congress and Senate. Today's vote provides much needed certainty for the trucking industry, the backbone of our economy to grow and thrive. By passing this bill, Congress averted the largest tax increase in our nation's history. Neither the economy nor our supply chain would have survived such a travesty. Motor carriers, the overwhelming majority of which are small businesses that operate 10 trucks or fewer, will now have the ability to plan for the future, to continue to provide good paying jobs and upgrade equipment. We commend congressional leaders for the recognizing this fact and crafting this tax relief package. OOIDA's praise was somewhat qualified. These steps not only improve the daily lives of truckers across America, but also enhance the safety on the road for everybody. But Spencer's thoughts on the bill are less favorable due to the Fair Labor Standard Act, which denies truckers overtime pay. Eliminating tax on overtime pay for blue-collar workers is a well-intentioned move. Unfortunately, truckers won't benefit from this key provision in there due to their exclusion from overtime protections under the outdated Fair Labor Standard Acts of 1938. It's time for Congress to fix a nearly century-old oversight by passing the bipartisan Got Truckers Act and ensure truckers are both eligible for overtime and tax relief extended to other blue-collar workers. Now, again, you guys, I got to dig into that a little bit more, but I don't know, because obviously if we're looking at OOIDA, and again, this is just me speaking based on my knowledge of OOIDA, and then asking for overtime. If you're looking at an independent contractor, you are self-employed. I don't know of any business owner out there that, depending on how their business is structured, that gets overtime pay at all. I mean, most of them are paid on a salary, or their entire compensation package is based solely on the structure of their business, right? So again, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there that don't get overtime pay, but I would look at it as if you're a single operator, you might want to look at talking to your CPA and see how you could structure your business differently out there. But again, a lot of it boils down to me. And again, I'm not arguing if it's fair or not fair, but when you sign up to operate and own your own company, you guys, I think a lot of the standard employee protections kind of go out the window. Okay. But again, if it's a company driver, I don't have the data. This is just my knee-jerk reaction to this article and what was said in there. I don't know if company drivers are entitled to overtime pay now, or if that's in their employment agreement, and they would have to go out there and look into that prior to signing on the dotted line. But again, I think if this is just me from my stance and knowledge of what OOIDA is, if OOIDA is operating independent contractors, if you're a 1099 or you own your own company, I don't know if you're entitled to the verbiage on what an overtime for an employee would mean out there. You guys, again, time and a half and everything else. Again, I'm not here to argue what's fair or what's not, but I feel like it's a structure of your company that should be in question, and not if you're entitled to overtime. If you're self-employed, I think a lot of that shit goes out the window. So I think you might want to look into that out there. But again, you guys look into this. Again, there were some great things in there with the trucker package and the big, beautiful bill, earmarking for truck parking and everything else. I'm not a fan of everything that's inside of the bill at all. I try and remain as politically agnostic as possible. And if you watch my 4th of July show, it's pretty, I believe in the Constitution, you guys. I don't like either party. But, again, I feel like the fact that from the industry's perspective, the fact that there's a trucker package in there, I like that. And again, we got to make our voices heard out there. Third and final article we are going to talk about today, you guys, is also from ttnews.com. And this is that UPS plans to offer voluntary buyouts to union drivers. So if you guys remember out there, the old Teamster union got their wish and got a massive pay increase to some of their drivers. And now here we are a year later, and it might not be working out so well. That the carrier previously said so UPS plans to reduce its workforce by 20,000 employees. And again, I want to be abundantly clear. I got to insert this every single time. I hate seeing people lose their job. All right. I want people to make as much money as possible. I am a capitalist at heart, but I think these are the ramifications of what you see out there, because businesses need money to operate on. And you can't just say, pay me $1 million, and then people just pay you $1 million. All right. Doesn't work. But into the article here. And again, it's inevitable. Every time I even mention a union on this show, somebody's chirping about how I'm a piece of shit for not supporting the unions. But anyways, back into the articles here. UPS plans to offer voluntary buyouts to union represented delivery drivers for the first time in the company's history. Drivers would receive a generous financial package if they plan to use leave UPS. The Atlanta-based courier is carrying out a sweeping plan to shrink its network to improve efficiency in response to a decline in parcel volumes following a pandemic-driven boom. The decision to offer unionized drivers buyouts, reflects the unprecedented business landscape. The company said UPS did not specify how many employees would be offered the package. UPS shares fell 1.3% during the shortened trading season in July. By July 3rd, the stock has declined more than 17% this year. The company in April said it was planning to reduce its operational workforce, a group that includes delivery drivers and package handlers, by 20,000 workers this year. The buyout plan was initially announced by the Teamsters. And then it goes on to say, which strongly criticized the initiative as a corporate scheme that will directly violate the union's national contract. UPS said it approached the Teamsters about the buyout and that it remains committed to the agreement that it reached in 2023 out there. I look at this, you guys, as, again, I think people who don't own businesses who have a very hard time with basic math have a hard time understanding that you can't just say we need to get paid more money when there's no more money to be paid, right? And I understand when people see, oh, revenues are up and stuff like that, but what about their expenses, right? Like businesses have to make money to stay in business, right? And when you go out there and you demand more money, and again, I understand why unions take the stance that they do, right? Why not? Why not go out there and try and get it, right? Try and get more money. But like there are side effects out there. It's, why socialism doesn't work, you guys, at the end of the day, because you can't just give everybody $1 million when there isn't $1 million to give. And eventually you got to come to that hardline understanding of maybe you committed to too much and you got to make cuts. And when there are cuts to be made out there, you guys, businesses generally go to the highest paid employees out there and try and get rid of them, right? I think it's pretty common knowledge. And I'm not saying that this is what UPS is doing or anything like that, but that you can 100%. I've been in this situation before inside of an organization where they're like, hey, we got to reduce our head count because we need to make more money and we need to increase our profitability. And where do they go? Highest paid employees, lowest performing employees, and then they just get rid of them, right? I'm not here to argue what's right or what's wrong, but again, when you're going out there, and I'm not saying that these employees aren't worth the money that they're getting paid, but you can't just hand out $170,000 a year salaries to jobs that aren't necessarily deemed to be worth that on a balance sheet, because you're going to have decisions like this that are going to be made and people are going to lose their jobs for it. They're going to go in there and they're going to try and find their ways to work around it. And of course, the union's going to be against it, but I think you shot a little too high here and people are going to lose their jobs. It's just what happens, right? You can't just demand higher wages and then just expect it to work out when, a business has a drop in revenue. So again, when revenues drop, people got to make money to stay in business. And I feel like employees' salaries are the first line item that people look at, and they're the first things that are cut out there. So again, it sucks to see people lose their job, but I feel like the Teamsters might have outshot themselves on this one. It's going to cost their members some money out here, right? And again, I'm not the biggest union guy out there, but I am all about people making as much money as possible. That's why I'm a capitalist, you guys, in a free market. It's the only system that works where people can go out there and make as much money as they possibly want. And then you work in a constrained environment. It's kind of hard to make that additional money out there. And then especially when businesses have a drop in revenue, I got to make money as well. All right. And that's one of those things that is taken into consideration. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. Again, sorry about the audio issues earlier on this. We got that all handled here on that amazing IT move of just restarting your computer, which I did out there. But that will be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. If you're feeling really ambitious after this one, rank the show on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.